So I have with me Carl Beech. You may know the name for different reasons. Maybe it's CVM, the Gathering. Maybe it's ministry or other things. But what's something that people should know about you then, Carl?
Well, that's a big question. I don't know.
I start small.
Yeah. So I'm 51, married to Karen, 30 years in April next year. Got two adult daughters. One's a vet and the other one's a tattoo artist. Don't know how that works. We bring them both up the same, and one's an academic and the other one lives in Narnia, mate. So, and I live in a place called Staveley, which is on the edge of Chesterfield. It's a former mining village, industrial town. It's all shut down now. I don't know, mate. I'm a kind of free roaming gospel ninja, I suppose.
I like that description.
Yeah.
So I think people will know you for different reasons. I mean, the Gathering is going to be probably one of those. Just tell us a bit about the Gathering.
Yeah, that was something that came about because I was, cutting a long story short, I was bored with my own conferences. I was boring myself at conferences I was even speaking at, and I decided I wanted to do something because I do a lot of men's work with men. I wanted to do something that men would actually want to go to rather than just sit in rows and listen to content, a Christian event. So I kind of fused Top Gear with Songs of Praise and set up this thing called The Gathering. First year, a few hundred blokes, I think, 280 blokes. I'd never run a festival before, so I didn't have enough toilets. I had the world's grumpiest barman from Swindon. But it was a success. It was a weird, strange success. A lot of people responded to the messages we were putting out, and we thought, well, let's do that again. And then it sort of escalated. And then over the years, it's now a festival just before the pandemic, it was up to about 2,500 men. And, we had Battle of Britain Memorial Flight turning up, Formula One teams, rock music, comedians, all that kind of stuff, but also chess and walking football. And it's something for everybody. And it's now kind of a firm fixture, I guess, in the Christian events calendar. And it's like a proper festival. It's a good laugh. So it's been going 13 years now.
Wow. It's all grown up now, isn't it?
Yeah, mate, proper serious, got policies and everything.
Hey, there you go.
And insurance.
Always useful.
I can get insurance for everything but football. I can get insurance for an axe throwing, blowing stuff up. I can't get the five-a-side football insured. How about that?
Really?
A disclaimer. You can even have wrestling, sword fighting, can't insure the football.
Right. Well, it makes sense somewhere. And I saw that's now birthing something new. So you've got a similar version for women. Is that right?
Yeah. So the actual story is that many years ago, there was something called Christian Viewpoint for women. And the women said, you really ought to do something for the blokes. So there's a thing called Christian Viewpoint for men started down in Sevenoaks. And then I got involved maybe 25, 28 years ago. I changed the name to Christian Vision for Men. And during that time, Christian Viewpoint for Women stopped. And then there's been this big gap. And I then founded Edge Ministries and working in close partnership with CVM, which I'm president of. We can call me El Presidente. Very comfortable with that. And then I had some amazing women on my team, and we all had this vision together. And they particularly thought we need to do something for the women. So we launched CVW to work alongside CV Men. So Christian Viewpoint for Women is part of Edge Ministries. CVM is its own charity, but it's coming into the Edge Ministries group over the next year. So we're like a big mission collective, like a group of ministries, really. Yeah.
That's really cool.
So they're going to launch the Gathering for Women, which awesome. I think will outgun the Gathering for Men. Like, for the men, I have to have trapeze artists, blow stuff up, fighter jets. And you might get 4 blokes and a hamster. The women, you just say, do you want a coffee and a croissant? They get 4,000 women come along. So I think it's going to be a winner.
Oh, cool. Well, is that going to be the same sort of place, same time, or is that a different time of year?
It's going to be in a different venue because we've got to scale it up. So we meet for the Gathering for Men in a field near Swindon. Again, another long story, miraculous story, actually, how that came about. The women, we're going to meet in like a camp. Well, they will meet in like a camping venue with a barn or something, and then see where it goes. But what they're going to do next year, they're going to do a whole bunch of launch events. So they're going to be going around the country, gathering people and just sort of building the team, which is how CVM started. There's a guy called Max Sinclair, did a whole bunch of city tours with a group of mates and saw if there was an appetite for it and launched the ministry. So the actual charities work by having hundreds of men's groups all around the country, and the gathering is bring everyone together and have a knees up.
Awesome.
That's what the women will do. Yeah.
Excellent. But might outshadow the men's one.
Yeah, well, very quickly, I think. I think that's the reality.
Yeah.
Like blokes, we're hard to get together, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we book late, don't turn up. You know, it's hard work. I'm 30 years seasoned veteran. I'm like an old war horse now.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm out by the pen.
Right, and then we'll come back to Edge Ministries, but another one is Parkinson's, which is something new that you've had to face.
Yeah. So I was diagnosed with what they call young onset Parkinson's 7 months ago. Although, like most people who get diagnosed with this, was probably symptomatic for many years previously. Young onset Parkinson's is super rare. There's only about 10,000 of us in the UK with it, because most people associate Parkinson's with old people. And I'm not. Oh, I mean, I'm middle-aged. I'm 51, but is that middle-aged now?
I don't know. I'm 46.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Middle. It's fine. Got plenty of years left.
Yeah. So I'm young to get it. I was probably around your age when I started getting symptoms. I mean, I can go on to explain what it is, because a lot of people don't know what Parkinson's is.
Go for it.
Yeah. So basically, there's an area in your brain where you've got two comma shapes of brain cells, neurons, that produce dopamine, the hormone dopamine. And dopamine, most people associate with the feel-good hormone. It does give you the reward buzz. Find a car parking space on a busy day and you go, yes, you get a hit of dopamine.
Yep.
Well, in Parkinson's, those dopamine cells start dying. But it's not just a reward buzz. It's a neurotransmitter through your body that makes your muscles work properly, makes your nervous system work properly. And most of us, when we're diagnosed, the point you get physical symptoms, you've lost about 60% of them, and it's incurable and degenerative. So they say, when they're the words you hear when you're diagnosed, and it's very rare. So often we have a terrible diagnosis journey because they think you've got other things, like, is it MS? Is it functional neurological disorder? Is it MND? And I heard all of those sort of things as you're going through the process. And young onset is much more associated with pain. So you get something called dystonia, which is not cramp. It's like when your muscles twist out of shape.
Okay.
You get slow movements. Your arms stop swinging. Your hands get sore, don't close properly. Your face starts masking. You lose expression. And then they can give you medication for it. So you have to take that for the rest of your life. And like all through the day, multiple different types of medication. And then you eventually, the progression of the disease is such that the medication stops working. So you just have to have brain surgery.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, they deep brain stimulation. They drill a couple of holes in your head and pop some wires in. And they run a cable down your neck into your chest with a battery pack and a transmitter, and you zap your brain to stop you having the symptoms. Wow. But about 30% of us don't have a persistent tremor, and I don't. But I think I'm slowly developing one in my right hand. But because it's so rare, the doctors don't really see it. So I'm now voluntary chief executive as well on the side. It's like a side hustle of Spotlight Young Onset Parkinson's Disease, Spotlight YP, which is the only UK charity dedicated to young onset Parkinson's. So that's I'm trying to fight back by doing what I can to help people. But it is a gift in many ways, mate. It's a strange gift in that it makes you enjoy every hour, every minute. I mean, the disease is very variable. The symptoms progress, but you never know what's going to hit you 1 hour to the next. The pills give you about 8 to 10 good hours a day. You get about 90% of yourself back. So I made sure I took the pills before I came on this call.
Yeah, I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Oh, right. Although they will wear off halfway through, probably, but you might not notice.
Oh, fair
I'll
dues.
notice, but you won't.
Fair dues. Right. On to Edge Ministries, which is what I saw, which I wanted to talk to you about really. So just tell us. So you're near Chesterfield. Which is it? Northeast, southwest? I know where Chesterfield is, but not Staveley.
Yeah, so Staveley is to the east of Chesterfield. It's in the Chesterfield borough, and
Yep.
Staveley is a town of 20,000 people, where our main operational HQ is. But we operate Edge centres in Chesterfield. We've got two others in two other parts of town that are deprived, and our focus is we call it reaching forgotten people in forgotten places, offering hope and help to everyone. But we mainly focus in like the bottom 1% areas of deprivation. Although you see me in the Bonsai Palace at the moment,
Yeah.
this is my garden office. I live in a council estate in one of the Staveley wards. To give you some context about Staveley, it might help understand why we're doing what we do. So I moved here intentionally to help pioneer this work. We'll lead it. There's about 45% illiteracy. 35% of kids are under the poverty line. If you move 3 miles west of here, you live 10 years longer.
Wow.
And you live 30 years longer without chronic health problems. So it's a super tough, super deprived area, but the people are precious. They're beautiful people. And we made our lives here, basically.
Right. So
try and help them.
Yeah. What sort of things are you actually doing then? I know this was to try and what I saw is you were trying to raise some money towards the work. So what are some of the projects you've got going on there?
Loads. So basically, we operate like a conception to grave rescue model, trying to help people at every stage of their life, from the moment they're conceived to the moment they die. So we do all sorts. Like we run warm spaces during winter and cool spaces during summer. We run free cafes. We have hot food. We run food banks, community gardens, housing benefits, debt advice for free, community events. We community garden, did I say that? Youth club, parenting courses, alcohol and drug rehab work. We sign up some education stuff to help people with their literacy and their numeracy. We do a lot of fun stuff as well. We put on like community bingo. It's free and everyone wins. That loads and loads of different projects and dropping. So our centres become like micro villages, really. That have helped. We run their big centres that, by God's grace, we've been able to get hold of debt free. So in Home Hall, we've got a big community centre, it's only about 26 years old. We lease a big Methodist church of 2 acres of land out here in Staveley, and we got a chapel that we converted into an Edge centre that we were gifted, actually, over in Tupton. And then we're about to open a work in a former Methodist church in a place called Duckmanton. All places that no one's heard of, but are full of beautiful people. And then we operate. We're looking at centre hubs in Darlington, Radcliffe, north of Manchester, down in Devon, and over in Essex. And then we support loads and loads of churches that all gather around those places. Yeah,
it's great. It's growing clearly. I mean, you've got a need to meet that need, don't you?
Yeah, it is growing. And there's a faith community. We don't call it a church. We're like punk monks. You know, we're kind of like a cross between a monastery and raving charismatic house churches and Methodism and Salvation Army and stuff all fused together. We don't meet on Sundays. We're at church every day. We rest on the Sabbath, as we call it, and we live to a code of serving our community and praying together every day and all that kind of stuff. It's lovely, actually. It's a different model, but we are seeing large change from all sorts of different backgrounds. It's a way of life for us. It's a complete way of life. Yeah,
like a big blended family, isn't it? Really,
it is. Yeah, in fact, someone who's just recently joined said it was like coming home. And like we have these communion meals every week. And like people just pop in. We have a bring and share meal. You never know what's going to turn up. Could be a pizza, chips, and a Turkish stew. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen.
You have quiche?
Very rarely.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I think curry is the new quiche in Christendom.
Is it?
But we gather, we break bread, as we call it, and go straight into a meal. That's our expression of church. We eat around a common table and hang out once a week. And we have all kinds of other stuff happening through the week as well to gather people, but the rest of the time we're busy helping people. So if you join the Edge Faith community, you join to serve and help.
That's really good. And it's kind of, it's not really a new model. It's what community is, isn't it? We should be in each other's lives and helping.
Yeah, it's interesting actually, because working in the Parkinson's community, the young onset Parkinson's community, they would say it's obviously not a Christian organisation spotlight, but they would say that community is one of the most healing things. I go to a support group for Parkinson's. It's not a Christian thing. But we find great strength in doing life together. And I think that's the same in these communities. Like our community meals are open to everyone and people come along regardless of faith. But there's strength in being together and doing life shoulder to shoulder. But community like that is hard, because you're all different sorts of people. And someone once said, it's like hedgehogs on an iceberg. Like you all get together, huddle together because you need the warmth. And as soon as you huddle together, you poke each other in the face with a spike. Yeah. You spring apart again. So it is like herding hedgehogs on an iceberg.
I like that analogy.
But it is also a beautiful thing, when it's done well. There's ups and downs. Like it's not all plain sailing, but it has been, for me, the Edge Faith community and Edge Ministries, perhaps one of the most life-giving experiences in Christian ministry that I've ever had in 30 years. And that's saying something.
So you've been in the ministry a long time. How has Parkinson's, that's the obvious question to ask, but I've got to ask it. How has Parkinson's affected your ability to minister to other people whilst dealing with your own issues?
That's a good question, mate. Let me be honest. When I was first diagnosed, I thought, if I'm going to be really disabled one day, because this thing's coming to get me, no doubt about it, and I do struggle some days. I thought, if I'm going to be seriously disabled, I think I'll go and do that in Florida or Provence or Nice or something. And then I realised that for many years, I've been telling the story of a man called Father Damien de Veresta, and he was a Catholic priest many, many years ago. And when he was ordained, he had a death shroud put on him, which is what they used to do back in the day. He had a mourning shroud, a black shroud put over his head. And they say, I died to my own life. I now live for Christ. I live for others. And he, at a young age, like 20s, I think, he went out to a Hawaiian island, which sounds fantastic, but actually it was a leper colony. And the first thing he did was go out there to serve the lepers. And he used to bathe their wounds, teach the kids, have set up schools, dancing clubs, all that kind of stuff. And then one day he had his feet in a tub of boiling water, hot water, not boiling water, hot water, to soothe his feet. And he realised he couldn't feel the temperature of the water. And he contracted leprosy. He realised immediately. And do you know what he said? He said, finally, I can be like one of them. Wow. And then there was me living in this area with a lot of chronic health problems, thinking, oh, no, I'm disabled now. I've got a blue badge and everything, mate. I'm disabled. I think I'll go to Florida. And I felt really convicted about that. So I decided to make my life amongst people who are struggling. And although some days I struggle, the bottom line is I'm living this out. I ask people to pray for me with joy and strength, and showing that even though you can be struggling, you can be joyful. So, if it's the plan for my life, I will live the rest of my days in this community. And although I have my limitations, like my driving license has been restricted, I can still drive, but only certain things. Even though some days I have to use a walking stick, it's rare at the moment, but it happens. And some days I can be hit, because obviously I've got brain damage that's been increasingly damaged. I can get crushing depression or apathy or anxiety, and I get insomnia and all that kind of stuff. Actually, there's a great strength to living this out with other broken people. And I've got a fantastic team who accommodate that. I've got a beautiful board of trustees who support me. And most days I work long hours and I get the job done, long hours. But I also know some days I'm not as capable as I once was. And I have to accept those limitations and adapt. And that's something I'm going to have to do now for the rest of my life. because it will get worse.
Yeah, fair enough. Edge Ministries, you've got some projects. You're trying to get people to raise money. What's been the response to that?
Well, we've only just put this appeal out, and actually we have got some amazing supporters, but the big struggle at the moment is we have to keep our facilities open in the winter. People here cannot afford to heat their homes, and they can't afford to heat and eat. It's not even a choice. Sometimes they can't even afford to eat. And that's very real. I don't think people realize just how tough this is. If people visited where we are, they'd realize there's no restaurants, no banks, there's no great transport system, there's no city infrastructure. These are overlooked places, and all the industry shut down, the mines shut down, the chemical factories shut down, there's no jobs. People have got no money. And therefore, we keep our centres open to provide a refuge for people and give them hot food. I can feed 10 people for £3, a hot meal. And we reckon it's going to take 20 grand to keep our 3 facilities just here in Chesterfield open over winter. And I think, so far I raised a couple of grand. We only put it out last week. But we're calling it the Winter Fighting Fund, because people do freeze to death in these places.
Yeah.
And people do suffer through malnutrition. The kids do. It's a very, very serious issue. I was sitting with a woman in summer last year who was crying on my shoulder in August, saying, I know I'm going to have to tell the kids we're going to have to sit in the cold and we can't eat properly over winter. And mum of 3. That's how real it is. So that's what the funding's for. So most of our staff nearly all live in these areas of deprivation. Most of us try and self-fund our salaries. We will live by faith missionaries. We're missionaries in the United Kingdom. We're a mission order. That's what we are. And that's why we need the funds. Yeah.
Fair dues. So I know it's quite recent, which is why I thought I'd get contact with you. But you've had a few people who've already got some ideas to raise money. What are the ideas you've had so far?
Oh, our staff are mad. We've had people doing crazy press-up challenges every day. I've got one member of staff doing 50 squats every day. We've had someone do 3 back-to-back half marathons. They're doing a 30-kilometre walk. And what's great is they all chip in. We've got a thing called poverty breakers, where we ask people to give us £3 a month, because £3 feeds 10 people. So if we had 1,000 people giving us £3 a month, it makes a big difference. But also every penny counts, doesn't it? So we call it the Ton Up Challenge, mate. If you can raise £100 for Edge, it's all on my Facebook and stuff, and on the Edge Ministries site. You raise £100, that actually makes a significant difference. We're not like we're saying we need £1 million or 500,000, because in these areas of extreme poverty, every penny does make a significant difference. And it all mostly goes to frontline work, helping people, because we keep our admin costs super low. In fact, we're understaffed for what we achieve running these centres. We rely on a huge amount of volunteer help, but our guys are amazing. Yeah, amazing.
That's really cool. It's good to see what the work is doing. But have you got a success story of somebody who was? I was just chatting to someone this morning who went through. They lost a family member through murder. They found church, found Jesus, found hope, found faith. Have you got, a recent story of somebody who has come into this community and actually it's given them hope?
Yeah, loads. I can tell you. Recently, not so long ago, we baptised 2 people. One who had been a drug dealer, and the other one was a drug addict. Both baptised on the same day.
Wow. Yeah,
amazing. Well, another guy, a mate of mine, was in the Paris for 32 years, fought in 3 wars, was an elite guy, pathfinder, sniper. Best mate got blown up in front of him on a rescue mission, and had chronic PTSD. Long story short, because obviously I haven't got time to go into it all, but I woke up one morning praying, and I felt the need to buy a whiteboard, which my wife was a bit exasperated about, because I don't write anything down. And I bought a whiteboard, a set of pens and a board rubber. My mate, this para who's traumatised, had come down to our project to get help with his military pension. Not a Christian at all. anyway, we got alongside him. I took him on the road with me one day, actually, and we went to watch a bit of boxing down in Kent, and I preached the gospel early in the morning. He came with me, and he on the next morning, we got back at 2 in the morning. He messaged me at 8 in the morning, which is super rare, and he'd never been around my house. He said, I had a dream last night that there was a whiteboard. I hadn't told him this, and on it was written Airborne Soldier Identity and Injustice. He said it was in a rectangular building by a small chair. I said, come round, me old mucker. She came round, I put the pot of coffee on. I said, come down to my garden office, which is where I'm talking to you from.
Yeah.
He saw this whiteboard with a set of pens and a board on, but it was still wrapped up in cellophane that my wife had been cross about. And it was standing next to a chair that I just bought from Facebook Marketplace. He said, that's my dream.
Wow.
And he wrote on it, Airborne Soldier Identity and Injustice. We spoke for 2 hours about, as it was, spoke for 2 hours about the power of the gospel and how, though being a para and a pathfinder was elite, that's not who he was. That's what he did. But who he was something else, child of God. And we talked about how the cross of Jesus deals with identity and injustice. And we ended up praying together in the woods by my house, which actually where a lot of people go to smoke weed. And we went for a walk. And we came back in and he wiped the board clean and wrote his name. So I won't say name. He wrote his name down and then put child of God, father and friend in place of the other things. Like the board was wiped clean. He had a new life. Because when we were in the woods and we prayed together, he just asked Jesus to help him. And then he looked at me in tears and he said, Carl, I can hear the birds singing. And I said, what do you mean? He says, since 2016, I've had so much combat trauma in my life, I can't hear any background noise, and I've not been able to hear bird song. The minute I said, Jesus, help me, I heard all the birds singing in the woodland.
Wow.
And now he's part of our team.
That's awesome.
Yeah, one life at a time, mate. One life at a time. And this guy is unrecognisable. He's so full of joy. And he's now gone from being part of the problem to part of the solution. And God is putting his family back together, his life back together. He don't stop smiling. He's also the king of banter. So you've got to keep your wits about you. He was never like that before. Yeah.
Brilliant. It's so encouraging. It's really good. It's exciting to hear that you're not just doing something, but you're doing something that actually is changing lives one at a time. And that's the key.
Yeah, one life at a time. We're not trying to put loads of bums on seats. It's one life at a time.
Yeah.
It's long-term work, but it's precious. Yeah.
I remember before I came on to chat to you, I remember the thing about a guy on a beach with some starfish, and he was chucking him back in one at a time. And someone said, "What are you doing that for? They're all going to die." See, but this one isn't. And it was that image of you can save one, and you can save one. You know, we can all help one person. We all have that in us. But when you come together like a community, it's great.
Yeah. All do something. But you know where we are, there's no resource. We need everybody's help so we can help one. You know.
Cool. Have you got a website people can come to?
Yeah, you go to edgeministries.net.
Okay.
And it's all there. All one word, edge.net.
We'll link to that as well. Carl, it's a pleasure meeting you for the first time and chatting. Thank you. I will keep praying and hoping that you get what you need for what you're doing, because it's really awesome. And that story of that paratrooper, that's the power of the gospel, and that's redeeming God.
That's it, mate. That's what it's all about.
Cool. Thank you so much, mate. I appreciate it.
Thank you, mate. God bless.